up on LifeLock's Race to March Madness. The fallout from Indiana's investigation of Kelvin Sampson. How is modern technology creating a slippery slope for coaches?
Early and back, Zach. Good.
31-year-old Brad Stevens. He's got the 8th-ranked Butler Bulldogs taking a bite out of the competition.
It is about a journey. It's about learning. It's about getting better every day.
And the Big East, well, it's been a seesaw all season long. Rick Pitino talks about Louisville's coming of age.
We've had a lot of injuries and problems here, more than I've ever had as a coach. So it was difficult playing the type of schedule we played.
And Villanova's Jay Wright helps us break down the league. LifeLock's Race to March Madness. Let the insanity begin. Hi, everyone. This is LifeLock's Race to March Madness. Bonnie Bernstein, Tom Brennan, along with our guest analyst today out of the Big East, Jay Wright. Hopefully make some sense of this conference. Taking a look at the top 25. Finally, outside of Memphis, we got a little bit of a shakeup in the top 5. Duke, Kansas dropping after losses to Wake and Texas, respectively. That bumps up Carolina and Tennessee. And we've got Louisville cracking back into the top 25. So there are 5 Big East teams in the rankings this week. And Tom, when you look at the conference overall, how do you rate its strength opposed to the other BCS conferences?
Well, I think, Bonnie, that the Big East is the second strongest conference in the country, in my opinion. They have 4 teams with 3 losses at the top. Now, 3 of them, Notre Dame, Louisville, and Connecticut, are kind of moving up. Georgetown kind of moving down. But don't cry for Georgetown. They're built for the long haul. I think they'll be fine.
Jay, your Nova team started out hot at 13-3, took a little dip. How much do you attribute that to stuff going on with your team versus the actual strength of the Big East?
Well, I think it's both, and I beg to differ with the expert analyst. And I think the Big East is the best conference. We have 16 teams, and of the 16, there is a great percentage are very tough teams. So an injury to a player here, youth, can affect you a lot more in this league. And for us, we don't have any seniors. Our juniors are in the front court, so young guys, freshmen mostly in the back court, makes it difficult. And then you take those freshmen against these teams in the Big East on the road, and that's where the inexperience rears its head. And we're going to be all right, though. We're going to get this team going.
Very talented freshmen, too. Much more on the Big East in a little bit, but now to the Big Ten, where the headlines for Indiana usually, at least this time of year, would be talking about trying to win the first conference title since 1993. Instead, the headlines in Bloomington these days blare of recruiting violations, improper phone calls, and lies to NCAA investigators. Tom, in the mind of a former coach, how do you rationalize somebody stepping over the line not once but twice and not being forthright about it?
You know, it's really inexplicable to me, Bonnie. I mean, from everything I know about Kelvin Sampson, he's supposed to be a wonderful guy, been a great coach, but it's kind of like drowning in a bathtub. You know, your parents tell you, tell the truth. That's the very first thing. And I do know this, if the NCAA comes calling, that's not necessarily a good thing. It's like Mike Wallace knocking on your door.
It is. I think, Bonnie, we have a situation here of intent. You know, I know Kelvin Sampson. I'm sure he didn't purposely break those rules. And with phone rules, there's always a question of who is responsible for making the call. Does it count if you initiated the call or not? And, you know, all those rules now are very prevalent in college basketball. And the NCAA sends things to us all the time now that we have to be on top of this, you know. Facebook is big. We have to monitor our players' Facebook all the time. We have people in our athletic department just doing that. Text messaging. When they changed that rule on August 1st, August 2nd, I mistakenly returned a kid's text message. I had to report myself. So it's a big part of our recruiting now. The NCAA is really on top of it.
Yeah, but there is this gray area, and for some reason I suspect this won't be the last time that we deal with this situation. All right, coming up on LifeLock's Race to March Madness, Rick Pitino's got Louisville in the hunt for the Big East, and the Butler's young pup has coached the Bulldogs into the nation's elite. But Brad Stevens evidently still flying under the radar.
Go. LifeLock's Race to March Madness is brought to you by LifeLock, the industry leader in proactive identity theft protection, and Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Welcome back to LifeLock's Race to March Madness. You know, throughout time, man has debated youth versus experience, and basketball in America's heartland is certainly no exception. Indiana lays claim to 4 top 25 teams this week. IU and Notre Dame obviously have had veteran coaches to this point. 37-year-old Matt Painter has Purdue riding atop the Big Ten, but it is Butler coach Brad Stevens who, at age 31, has the highest-ranked program in the Hoosier State.
So let's be crisp, get loose, use this time wisely. Here we go.
This is a little bit of the little engine that could, just to go into games and believe in yourselves. I think that's a lot of what Butler basketball has become.
I think the small setting has a lot to do with it. You know, we don't have 36,000, we have 3,000 or 4,000. The great thing about it here is everybody embraces the team.
Coach Licklider and Coach Mata, now Coach Stevens, are all excellent coaches and have taken the program to new heights.
Set an example. Be an example for your teammates.
I'm 31, be 32 by the time next season rolls around.
The close relative age group, he actually knows what they're talking about when they talk about the latest rap song.
We do have a young staff, but as far as myself and our 3 assistant coaches, we've all either coached or played at Butler before.
I think with the coaches that's younger, you can relate to more. You can, be up 10 o'clock p.m. watching games, and you can call him, and he's watching the same game most of the time.
It's a lot easier to see a coach of that age, doing the same things that you did not too long ago, because obviously most coaches do play basketball. They've been involved with the game, and sometimes it's harder to see, older guys doing that because they're 20, 30 years removed from it.
Spin, drive it hard. You got this whole side, and you're filling up.
We tell our guys all the time, great shooters deserve to make shots. That means they put in the time in the gym, in the off season when no one's watching, so that when the lights are on, they can make those shots.
There's just something about this place that guys make a lot of shots, The opposing team make a couple, but we make a lot of shots here.
Right after I got the job, I was ordering a Subway sandwich just down the street, and I had my Butler gear on, and somebody asked me, hey, have you met the new coach? And does he ever come in here? And I said, I have, and I know what he orders.
When I heard the story, I sat there and imagined it in my head. I could see Coach doing that same exact thing. He's got humor with him.
I thought that was pretty clever because here you have this guy that looks so young, and you're still going to have that. You're going to have people that don't recognize him.
It'll probably change as the season goes on, as time goes on, and as people get more and more accustomed to him being the coach.
Good.
Well, I think when you talk about Hinkle Fieldhouse, the best way I can describe it is it's the best venue I've ever been in when it's full, and it's the best venue I've ever been in when it's empty. There's something special about it. You can feel the tradition.
The real popular notion of Hinkle Fieldhouse is when Milan High School won the state championship here in the 50s, which then went on to become the movie Hoosiers.
As you walk in here, obviously the people that yell Hickory when they walk in because they've seen the movie Hoosiers.
It's just great. It shows you how much more history is behind this place.
It is about a journey, it's about learning, and it's about getting better every day.
If you end up lifting a banner that says champions, I think it's because you guys decided you were going to be the most well-prepared, most focused team on the details. So we're going to focus on the details at the highest level we've ever done. And we're going to play harder, tougher, and smarter. And it starts with defending with pride.
Jay, you were 32 when you took over at Hofstra. You were 33 when you took over at Yale. Both struggling programs, which is not the case with Butler. How much of a coach's early success is predicated on what you inherit?
Well, I think a great deal of it, Bonnie, without a doubt. I think part of my situation was I was saying what took so long for everybody to discover me. But then when I got discovered, I realized what did take so long. But Brad, in talking to him, he's very humble, he's very appreciative of what he's got, and he did inherit a wonderful team.
He did, and Butler has created a unique family identity. They really have. They've kept it in the family. Todd Licklider, Thad Mata, Brad Stevens, all ex-assistants at Butler. And you inherit people that know you. You inherit guards like A.J. Graves and Mike Green, who know the program, they know you, that keeps recruiting going, that keeps a continuity with your alumni, and that breeds winning, and then winning keeps it all going.
And all of Stevens' assistants actually either played or coached at Butler before he came on board, so it really is all in the family. Tom, you consider this one of the most underrated top 10 teams, yet they've beaten Virginia Tech, Texas Tech, Ohio State, Southern Illinois on the road. Why are they underrated?
Well, because they look like a boys club team. That's why they're underrated. They're not big. They're not physically imposing. Graves looked like he should have Lassie next to him, but they are awfully good.
They are, and you know what? They play basketball the right way. They're very well coached, and they play the right way. That can overcome size and athleticism.
And here's our fun little nugget for the day. So Stevens is the second youngest D1 head coach. The youngest guy, former Hoosier Dane Fife, at 28 years old, now in his third year at Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. All right, we got two top 5 teams headlining tonight's lineup on the mothership. Chris Lofton and the Tennessee Volunteers heading to Memphis to try to knock off the Tigers. Saturday prime time presented by DirecTV, 9 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. For more information, log on to ESPN.com. Time for this week's trivia question, and it's a 3-parter. Only once in NCAA tournament history has one conference sent 3 teams to the Final Four in a single season. Name the conference, name the teams, name the year. The Big East is the only conference ever to send 3 teams to the Final Four in a single season. Georgetown, Villanova, St. John's in 1985, with Nova upsetting G-Town 66-64 in the title game. To this day, Raleigh Massimino's 8th-seeded Wildcats are the lowest tournament seed ever to win the NCAA championship. Well, Rick Pitino knows a little something about Final Fours. After all, he is the only coach ever to take 3 different schools there, Providence, Kentucky, and Louisville, just 2 seasons ago. With the depth of this year's squad, many had the Cardinals penciled in for another deep tournament run, and now that they've overcome early season injuries and suspensions, that may very well be the case. Aaron Andrews now with Pitino on his team, his 500th win, and being the patriarch of a pretty impressive coaching tree.
7 former assistants that are all now D1 coaches of yours. Not to age you or anything, but I mean, what is that like for you when you see all these guys around the country having so much success?
I always say I don't hire assistant coaches, I hire future head coaches. They're all doing a great job. Billy Donovan just came off back-to-back championships. Herb Sendek turning around Arizona State. Actually, I love seeing them win, sometimes even more than our games, because I'm so proud of them.
Billy, with the back-to-back titles the past 2 years, he uses you so many times. He says in articles and in interviews you're a mentor. What were the past 2 years like for you to watch him?
He came in with an coaching background in a very short period of time, because no one to this day has ever had the work ethic of that young man as a player or a coach. No one. They're all very strong work ethics, but Billy the Kid was something special, so it doesn't surprise me to see a back-to-back championship. Actually, it does surprise me back-to-back. It doesn't surprise me that he won a championship, but it does surprise me to win back-to-back. That's so difficult to do. I mean, and he did it, and I'm quite proud of him.
Big East, let's focus on that right now. Where do you think this conference ranks amongst the others this season?
It's like saying, where does Microsoft rank in the computer world? It's so big that it overpowers you. There's a lot of things about it. The Big East doesn't like when I say it, because I'm honest and objective. A lot of things about the Big East I don't like. But 18 league games in this conference, with the likes that we had to play non-conference, BYU, at UNLV, at Kentucky, Dayton, those people, besides that, it's very difficult. And it makes it for a meat grinder. At the end of the year, I hope a lot of us are still standing.
Beginning of this season, a lot of people thought this team was clear shot, you know, into the tournament, go far. You face some adversity. Your 2 prize guys, Padgett and Juan, go down. I mean, did it teach you anything?
We've had a lot of injuries and problems here, more than I've ever had as a coach, so we're used to it. But getting Padgett and Palacios, your 2 seniors, would be like taking Hibbert and Patrick Ewing Jr. away. How good would you be? So it was difficult playing the type of schedule we played, but our guys came through it okay.
They came through playing really well. I mean, how far do you see yourself going?
I don't like certain things they do, and I love certain things they do. They have certain nights where they don't take great shots. When we take good shots, we're a good basketball team.
When you talk about, you know, big things that you accomplish, 500th game, this past December. What do these marks mean as a head coach?
Doesn't mean much. My 500 doesn't mean
Really?
much. It really doesn't. It means more to me to go to 5 Final Fours, to be in 2 championship games. I think a number of wins means you've been very fortunate to coach at good schools, have some longevity in the game. I think number of wins is really not a telling sign to what you've tried to give back something little to the game.
When Padgett busted his kneecap in mid-November, a lot of people thought that was a season ender, and yet he made it back by January 1. He leads the Big East in field goal percentage. TB, compare U of L with him and without him.
Well, there's no question that they are a much more formidable team with him. And the reason I say that, Bonnie, is because he simply leads them in every offensive area. He's the guy the ball goes to first. He's the guy that makes the big passes. And plus, he's got such good ability to score. You have to respect that. But he really makes his teammates better. Reminds me a little bit of Bill Walton in college.
Well, also, during the games, he's the coach on the floor. In practice, Rick Pitino's got this team, but now he's got his guy on the floor. You can see them in huddles at a dead ball situation. He's got his arms wrapped around everybody. He's the guy pulling the young guys in. And when you have young guys, you know, like Edgar Sosa, Derek Character, Earl Clark, those guys need to look up to somebody. They need somebody on the floor to keep them focused on Big East basketball, especially when you're on the road.
They need somebody to hit him upside the head every once in a while, is what you're saying.
Nice way to put it.
16 teams in the Big East, more than any other power conference. What kind of issues did expansion bring in 05 that you're just sort of learning about now?
Well, RPI, you know, you beat each other up and you get teams at the bottom, and when those teams, you beat those teams, it doesn't help you. And also percentage. We want the NCAA to look at percentage of teams from our conference.
Well, of all the power conferences, the Pac-10 is the smallest with 10 teams. But that certainly doesn't dim the rivalry of the 2 Southern Cal squads divided by just 10 miles of gridlock traffic.
Hi everyone, I'm Jen Sturger. Los Angeles is home to 2 major Pac-10 powerhouses in USC and UCLA. But which one's really the better school? USC is set in a much more urban environment. What makes your campus better than their campus?
It's a great community, great teachers.
Everyone's so spirited, and it's just one big Trojan family.
You ask somebody at UCLA why they go there, it's because they couldn't get into USC.
Oh, really? Whereas UCLA, it's kind of like right in the heart of Bel Air. How many kids can say they went to school in 90210?
Westwood is amazing. There's like everything out there.
It's right next to the beach. You have Beverly Hills right next to us, Santa Monica.
So in terms of neighborhoods, I'm going to have to give UCLA the edge on this one. Do you guys know any famous alumni that went here by chance?
Baron Davis, Reggie Miller.
Kareem, Bill Walton.
Jaleel White, Steve Urkel.
Steve Urkel went here?
Yeah.
No way, I love that show.
Marcus Allen, Ronnie Lott, Will Ferrell.
He's graduating with Clint Eastwood.
Did he say, here's your diploma, punk?
He did not throw a Dirty Harry.
You know you were waiting for it though, right? As far as famous faces go on campus, this one goes to the Trojans. How do you think Kevin Love compares to somebody like O.J. Mayo?
Kevin Love, I think, is a good fit for UCLA, but he's not a dynamic player like O.J. Mayo.
Kevin Love's way better. He's going to be on a championship team this year. And O.J. Mayo probably won't even make the Sweet 16.
And when it comes to mascots, let's just say I like my mascots with six-pack abs. But like most girls, I love jewelry. And so with 11 championship rings, I gotta give the edge to the UCLA Bruins.
UCLA, fight, fight, fight!
The drama is back on Thursdays. Lost, the show on everyone's must-watch list, is off to its best season yet. An all-new Lost, 9/8 Central on ABC. Still to come on LifeLock's Race to March Madness, is North Carolina destined for a 1 seed? Our analysts will weigh in on that and our full-court press topics after this timeout.
LifeLock's Race to March Madness is brought to you by LifeLock, the industry leader in proactive identity theft protection. And Taco Bell. Think outside the bun.
Time to talk about our LifeLock Team of the Week, and this week we're going to zoom in on North Carolina. Guys, this was the #1 team in the country for the first 10 weeks of the season. Then losses to Duke, Maryland, some close calls to ACC cellar dwellers in Florida State and Virginia. Jay, how much do you think that has to do with injuries?
I think a lot, Bonnie. In the last 2 weeks, except for Wayne Ellington, all 5 starters have been out, either sick or injured. Of course, Ty Lawson not been in there. He's the guy that makes them play fast. That's what Carolina does better than anybody. Without him, they can't play that way. But I think Roy Williams, in the end of this season, is still going to feel great about the team because they're going to be hungry going into this tournament.
You seem to think the injuries might be a positive, though, huh?
Oh, absolutely. I think what happened was Marcus Ginyard played a little bit at the point, but Quentin Thomas was the key story. He was the starting point guard when they played Duke and they lost at home. And, you know, the people were asking questions, but then he played great against Clemson. He rallied the team. The kids rallied around him. And I think it's really going to bode well for them come March and April.
So here's the on-the-spot question. What type of security you think Carolina has as a 1 seed, or do they?
I think, you know, if they continue to play this way, they could get beat again, and that would knock them out of a 1 seed. But I think Roy would be very happy with a 2 seed, but a hungrier team and something to prove.
The interesting thing to me is that they can secure the 1 seed all on their own because they do have Duke again at Duke, which would be a wonderful win, and then possibly in the tournament. So if they get those 2 games, then I'm pretty certain that they will, in fact, be a 1.
Full court press, question number 1. TB, with the Big East having 16 teams, should the NCAA selection committee change their philosophy about how many teams they let into the tournament?
Absolutely not, my friend. Are you kidding me? That's their fault they want to have 16 teams. That's not the NCAA's fault. I think you pick the best 34 teams available for the at-large berths, and that's how you fly.
Well, you've become very liberal now that you're not coaching, TB.
Yeah.
You know, we have 16 teams, so the goal is to get the best teams. And we should look at the percentage of teams that come out of a league, not the number of teams. Because if you have a lot of teams, you're going to have a lot of good ones in there, especially the Big East.
Yeah, I figured you were going to be kind of biased. All right, question number 2. Since we talked about Louisville's David Padgett, which center is the most critical to his team's success?
I think without question, Kevin Love. He just does everything. He joined the Final Four team, made him better. I think he's a great player.
He's a freshman, TB. You wouldn't even have played a freshman. Roy Hibbert's a senior.
Like my wife now.
Roy Hibbert's a senior at Georgetown. He is the guy that the offense goes through, but most importantly, he has put their defense at the top of the country in field goal percentage and also in points allowed. He does it all for them.
All right, I'm hearing the final buzzer. We're out of time. We're going to take a bye week, but when we come back, we're going to step inside the Tennessee Volunteers program, go behind the scenes with Bruce Pearl, and we'll also look into the rich history of Tobacco Road. Thanks so much for watching LifeLock's Race to March Madness.